It is, of course, wrong to believe that the assassination of JFK is not still being felt today. And this doesn't just mean in relations with the Russians or our vulnerability to the enemy within. It also has to do with his inability to answer for himself, which he was good at doing. Group allegations from the left about his sincerity in civil rights, human rights, and independence movements, which some of us still believe he was dedicated to in the context of a Cold War framework where he was the odd man out, and that was the reason for his murder. One of the things that happened with JFK's murder is that the right wing had a moment to shine. It was widely believed that the right wing had given him an alter ego by sending him to Russia to mingle as a front and a cover story to use, making him believe he was going to be a private detective undercover in anti-Castro espionage, while their secret purpose was to set him up as the fall guy for a Rod Serling production type of ordeal, a Twilight Zone in Dallas, Texas. And when this aspect of what happened became perfectly obvious, largely due to the scorn of the Minutemen, the right wing, people who were not taken in by General Walker and Lyndon Johnson. People forgot all about his trip to Russia. But to ignore that Oswald did go and mingle with Russia and had something of a plastic relationship with Russia and met with the KGB and was stationed in this top secret right wing Japanese air base for a time where he learned Russian at Sugi, Japan. To ignore this, to ignore his letters, his diary being written in Russia, his Russian wife, his consolidating friends in Dallas with people who spoke Russian, would be to like ignoring that Sirhan Sirhan had diaries where he talks about killing RFK, or ignoring that I had the letters of Gail Burstyn and wondering where they actually came from, that they ended up in my house. It's not sensible to ignore that the KGB and the CIA go way back. I don't know if there's a vein of research that would show that the Hitler-Stalin non-aggression pact involved the OSS. It certainly involved the members of the German intellectual vanguard in military society that were recruited by the OSS in Operation Paperclip to serve the United States. And some of those things would still have been in place. The Russians were not particularly good guys. If you look at somebody like Yugoslavia's Milo Vangelis, what's that Yugoslavia? Tito. He was a hardcore Soviet mountebank who would have wives turn in their husbands and he would get them executed. It was horrible. And what you see in our society when you look at the way, for example, Kissinger flew off to meet with Putin and celebrated his invasion of the Ukraine, is what Putin praised and Kissinger called him a pragmatist. Pragmatism, in other words, is normalizing. The left normalized what Yoko Ono did to me, for example. That's what their idea of pragmatism is to normalize. It's pragmatic for someone like Kissinger to normalize the assassination of Kennedy, to sweep it under the carpet. If you look at the way that it plays out with Toon vying for office with the help of Kennedy's nephew to get the papers of Joe Biden, if he had any sense, would release today. It makes a gold digging mystery of it. Why did they hold off? What is all the gold digging? And Penis Gabriel, when he mocked me as a victim of torture, this is what our so-called British allies do to us. It's just like the way that the Israelis shot up the USS Liberty and lived to laugh in our faces about it, rub it in our faces. The British backstabbers do the same thing to us. Penis made it out that I was gold digging to want to know what happened. He's digging in the dirt, and that's a metaphor for how Trump got his money. He was up here in the Yukon, Klondike, or whatever it is. So, Dawson Company, whatever he had up there. So, I mean, there was even a picture of me, Kodak dated 1966, in front of a garage that said, "I love Sarah Sarah." I sent it to Jim Morris because they were stealing everything from me. Everything. They stole everything. A letter from Martha Gellhorn, Eleanor Roosevelt's best friend. Adrian Ballou was using a postcard that Fripp gave to me to get deaf people shot up in a bowling alley. I mean, it was absolute scoundrel time. Absolute scoundrel time. Mayhem from these British so-called allies. That's pragmatism? To normalize massacres? Bizarre. So we're still feeling the repercussions of the absurd sort that was set in motion when Jack Ruby and his gang sent Oswald to Russia so they could start using curtain rods as a symbol for, getting it in the Carousel Club for the benefit of Mr. K. Because the Carousel Club's music appears in Sgt. Pepper's. And it was a big ego trip. But everybody's complaining. They realize now the media is a mafia. That the media picks and chooses what it will report and what it won't report. People who see hope in Kissinger and Putin shaking hands while children are having their heads torn off in Gaza are absurdly stupid people. Absurdly stupid. And Jack Rubinstein and the Beatles, because Capitol Records was in Dallas at that time, as a matter of fact, were part of the gangster system of this media mafia in Hollywood, who said, yes, we can. Yes, we can what? Barack Obama. What can we do? Yes, we can pull the levers and pull a Lenin Houdini, like a big lottery ticket to getting over in the AIDS attack. Because they'll say, no, you had your martyr. And you want to follow your martyr. You want to live to be like your martyr, right? And they had the audacity of Obama, the audacity of their dope sprees, their drug pharmacy, their drug union syndicate number 711, their museum thieves, the partnership of Amanda Harcourt, Yoko Ono, and John Schulman in Pittsburgh, which made Smithsonian for $1 million museum heist. They had Sir Wecht, Oliver Stone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they had the audacity of Jeffen, very close like this with Nosferatu. He pinched the little behind of a Senegalese warrior to yada, 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 and a neuroplasm that they had implanted. And they had the audacity of Pope Carl to say the persona is subjected to successive degradations of the ex motive. And they asked me, why did you play into this nightmare? I said, to try to help my homies understand what had happened. That's not pragmatism, that's principle. You're supposed to be pragmatic. You're supposed to die as a lemmings to impress the Black Panthers, queerbait. This is the kind of feedback I got from these stupid people. There was a film called The 10th Victim from the 50s. The victim was allowed to try to find out who was targeting them. But 1717 Pacific says no. 1717 Pacific says we wanted a peep show of you with Rosie Monteleone Arnberg. That's what we wanted. We wanted a peep show of you, and you're going to keep your mouth shut or your mother's not going to say, huh, to Ronald Reagan, you have schizophrenia, leave him alone, with Mr. Rogers. He's going to burn your arm gangrenous instead with Matt Marcus. Understand? Queer ball.